A cosmic guide to your evolution. What does that even mean? And why would it be a guide? And why would it be cosmic? And I didn't know, but it is the message that I received last year on February the 6th of 2025. Today is February the 5th of 2026, and I put up a message saying you will choose today. And what we're choosing is to become ourselves. That's what we each do, but it's going to be different for each person. I never would have told you that I would be giving you a cosmic guide to your evolution or that for our world, for that matter. But that is what happened. And I couldn't have told you that I was a savant. I didn't know what I was doing or why I was receiving information the way that I was. We can develop different gifts or different skills as the world evolves, and they can be quite surprising. And that's what occurred for me. I'm Roger Burnley, if you don't know, and I've been a coach for a long time, but a channel for Wilhelm since 1989, which is something that I kept quite hidden or attempted to for the longest time. But I'm no longer doing that because I do understand what's happening in your life and what's happening in our world. And I've said so many ridiculous things that people just kind of look at me and stare because it doesn't make any sense, because I've done something we haven't seen before. I've said I downloaded the order of the universe, and I can speak to someone and say I know the blueprint of your life or the energetic changes that you might be moving through. That made no sense either. I've never studied astrology, astronomy, or any of those things, and actually I stayed away from them. I was never going to be a channel. I was never going to do any of that because I didn't fit in. I didn't fit in with that group because I wasn't doing things in the way that they were. You haven't done anything in the way anyone else has either, which might be the difficulty that you're experiencing because you're being asked to move into the next version of yourself, and that version occurs in your consciousness. And as we live as humans, we develop new ways of looking at and developing and seeing our consciousness, and that's what I was given through Wilhelm. And it's been documented. And so the proof of it was published today. And I'll give you the messages for the 6th as well, because I will be publishing them on my blog for tomorrow, but I'll put them together later so you can have them if you happen to see this video. But I'm saying this also because I'm doing an interview, my first interview where I'm going to talk about this fully. It's going to be a podcast interview, so you'll see all of that. But it was time to tell the complete story. I am 75 years old. Moved through every challenge or difficulty that any human might experience, and this work completely healed me. It caused mind-body healing to occur, which I didn't understand. I didn't even know what the quantum field was. I heard other people speak about it, and I heard other people do videos and talk about it, but I was living it. And that's the thing that was so surprising. And it was also the thing that was made it so difficult for me to move forward and for other people to accept it. When I first started discovering this, which was happening a few years ago, I started to see that I was uncovering patterns of our lives and our universe and how we change in consciousness. And then it's revealed that I developed the first verified consciousness raising system in history because it was so art, it was an mathematically perfect, basically. And I had no awareness it was happening. I would sit down on any day, and I just hear information to put it together. And then it turns out that it's aligned with the changes that were occurring in the world, which is why I knew what was happening in the world. Nothing was surprising. Now, I don't remember it all. I have to go back and study it just like anyone else. And on the video that on the post that you'll see today, you'll see there are 3 channeling sessions there over the past years, and you can listen to them, and it'll sound like the information was given then that we're understanding now. That's for all of us, and that's how I received it. We've heard of precognitive abilities, and it's what I have, but I denied that for a bit because it didn't make sense to me either. But then when you see the proof of it, and when you discover that you've been granted, you've been given the thing that could change humanity, because what it does is it guides each person to knowing their authentic self and their rightful place in the world. And it had to come about during this time in our world because we're moving through a shift in consciousness. And my role was to bring in this information so that more people could live great lives and we could change things. We would create the world that we wanted to have. We would create a world where we were more accepting of ourselves and others. That's what I was given. I would argue with Wilhelm when they would say, "You came to be love." And I go, "What does that mean? Why would I do that? With all this ugliness and people out there, why would I want to do that?" And so I resisted. But then you start to understand that that's how I healed. You see, because love is an energy. And I had to process through all the dark nights of my soul. I had to go through every difficult, challenging thing to be able to put together this work so that you won't have to do that, and neither would our world. I can say that because there's no difference in humans. We're all the ones who are creating everything. And if we don't let go of our old stuff, then we keep creating the same thing again. That's in our lives, in our world. So I had to be given a brand new philosophy, and it was called Your Life Operating Instructions, by the way. But that's what I've turned into my program, Your Last Development Program. And years ago, I was instructed to change it to that because Wilhelm said you wouldn't need anything else. Now, some people will keep struggling. They'll keep scrolling, as I would say. They'll keep looking for that next thing that's going to give them the ability to understand themselves and change their mindset and use cognitive behavior training and do all that stuff. And I've already been given that information. But now I have to finish putting it together. That's why I'm saying I'm changing, because my job is complete. I've already done it. I've already received the information. And so now it's about me taking the next step. That's why on the 6th, I'm revealing, I'm saying I was given the cosmic blueprint to guidance to your life, to anyone's life. When I do a private channeling session, and this is what I'm going to talk about in this interview tomorrow, which the interviewer doesn't know this is happening because I was given information about his life that I'm going to reveal on the podcast. There's an energetic a mathematical alignment to you. You have a unique DNA code, and I was the one who received the information. But now that's a bridge too far for many people to accept, even for me, even though I experienced all the healing. So I do understand. We all have cognitive dissonance, meaning when we haven't seen something done before, we can't believe that it's possible. But I'm going to continue to work with those people who know it's possible. And I've discovered that the people who are in my program, most of them are coming in because they've had a private meeting with me. That was the first thing that happened. And then they started to come, or they heard me on an interview where I started to reluctantly talk about it. And so now I'm doing so much more of that. There are no limits to what you can achieve in your life. That I do know. And on my website, it says, I know what you can achieve because it's within you. What I did was develop a way for you to find it and become empowered. And it is a road to self-mastery. And that's what the messages were attempting to say last year, but we couldn't have understood that. I didn't even understand it because it takes a while for us to ingest this wisdom and information, even though we have it within us. But that's been throughout history. That's what goes on. And we can look back and see that people would bring in new information. It would take so long for others, for many of us to accept it. That's what was happening with me, but I'm changing that. But you'll understand so much more when you see these messages, but also the blog that's there today. And I'll give you a link to that says you will choose today, because it's all in there. There's no reason for us to struggle or suffer anymore unless we choose to. See you soon.